Hey, what's up guys? Combat Critique here. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Tony Ferguson and Paddy Pimblett. Let's get started. If we take a look at the records of these two guys, starting with Tony, so Tony has 34 fights in total. He's won 25 of 34 fights and lost 9. If we talk about his 25 wins, 12 of them have been via knockout, 8 via submission, and just 5 via decision. Most of his wins have been finishes, either knockout or submission wins. If we talk about his 9 losses, he has 2 losses via knockout, 3 via submission, and another 4 via decision. Now let's take a look at Paddy Pimblett's record. So Paddy has 23 fights in total. He's won 20 of his 23 fights, lost 3. If we talk about his 20 wins, he has 6 of them via knockout, 9 via submission, and 5 via decision. So this man is a submission guy. He has more submission wins than knockout or decision wins. If you talk about his 3 losses, he has never been KO'd, and he has 1 submission loss as well as 2 decision losses. Now let's take a look at the physical and career stats for both these guys. Starting with the height, it is 5'11" for Tony Ferguson and 5'10" for Paddy Pimblett. So Tony will have a slight 1 inch height advantage. I believe all the prior opponents that the UFC has given to Paddy Pimblett were smaller in size. This is the first time that Paddy Pimblett is facing a guy who is naturally bigger than him. Weight is even at 155 pounds for both these guys. I don't think any of them will miss weight. Reach is 76 inches for Tony Ferguson and it is 73 inches for Paddy Pimblett. So again, I think all the previous opponents of Paddy had a reach disadvantage. In this is the first time that the opponent of Paddy Pimblett is having a reach advantage. So Tony will have a 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. Stance is orthodox for both these guys. And now if we talk about the age, this is where there is a huge difference between these two guys. Tony Ferguson is older by about 11 years and age can definitely play a factor in this fight. A lot of people are picking against Tony just because of his age, but let's look at some of the other factors as well. Now let's talk about the career stats. Starting with the strikes landed per minute. Now this signifies the number of strikes that you land against your opponents per minute on average. This is 4.98 for Tony Ferguson and it is 4.19 for Paddy Pimblett. So in this case, a slight advantage goes to Tony. He is landing quite a bit more number of significant strikes per minute. Striking accuracy is 45% for Tony Ferguson and it is 46% for Paddy Pimblett, just 1% higher, so very slight advantage goes to Paddy the Baddy. Next up we have the strikes absorbed per minute. Now this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute and this signifies the number of strikes that you absorb per minute from your opponents. This is 4.26, pretty high for Tony. We know he gets hit quite often, and it is 3.48 for Paddy Pimblett. So in this case he will have an advantage here. The guy with the lower number has an advantage because he is getting hit lesser. Striking defense is 56% for Tony and it is 41% for Paddy Pimblett. Surprisingly, there's a huge advantage here for Tony Ferguson. Overall, I think in the striking, 2 of the metrics favor Tony and the other 2 favor Paddy Pimblett. However, in striking accuracy, it is really close. Both these guys are neck to neck. So I will give a slight advantage to Tony Ferguson in the striking. I think he is the better striker and if he wants to win this fight, he should keep it standing. Now let's talk about the wrestling and the grappling stats. Starting with the takedown average. This is 0.42 for Tony Ferguson and this is 0.97, more than double that number for Paddy Pimblett. So Paddy Pimblett will have an advantage here. He is getting quite a few more takedowns per minute than Tony Ferguson and takedown accuracy is 35% for Tony and just 25% for Paddy Pimblett. So here the advantage goes to Tony Ferguson. Takedown defense 66% for Tony, 56% for Paddy. So again the advantage goes to Tony. Submission average is 0.9 for Tony Ferguson, and it is 2.4, more than double that number, almost thrice of that number for Paddy Pimblett. Paddy will have a huge advantage here. Overall, if this fight goes to the ground, I think Paddy is the better submission artist at this point of time. If this would have been prime Tony, things would have been different, but this is a Tony who is way beyond his prime, and in the ground Paddy Pimblett has an advantage. However, Tony has good takedown defense, which is 66%, and Paddy really does not have a good takedown accuracy. He is getting 1 out of the 4 takedowns that he shoots. His takedown accuracy is 25%. I think if Tony can stuff the takedowns of Paddy Pimblett and not get gassed out in the second or the third round, he has a really good chance of winning this fight in the standing department. If he keeps it standing, he has a good chance. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position as well as the significant strikes by target for both these guys. Starting with Tony Ferguson, 91% of all his strikes are from the standing position, just 2% from the clinch and 6% on the ground. If you compare this with Paddy, 82% of all his strikes are from the standing position, 13% from the clinch and 5% on the ground. So Paddy really goes to the clinch more often than Tony, and he has more clinch strikes than Tony in terms of percentages. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by target. Starting with Tony, 60% of all his strikes are to the head, 19% to the body and 21% to the leg. If you compare this with Paddy, 59% of all his strikes are to the head, 17% to the body and 24% to the leg. So Paddy is going to the body and to the leg slightly more often than Tony. I don't think there is a major difference between these two guys here. Now let's talk about some of the previous performances of these two guys, and we're gonna start with Paddy Pimblett, not Tony Ferguson. I'll leave him for now. If you look at the last performance of Paddy, where he beat Jared Gordon, it says he beat, but I think this was a robbery. Everybody agrees this was a robbery. Jared Gordon and Paddy Pimblett were really close in terms of the number of significant strikes landed, but Jared Gordon had 3 takedowns over Paddy Pimblett. He should have won this fight, but the judges gave it to Paddy via unanimous decision. This fight happened in December of last year, so Paddy is getting a 1-year layoff, and now he's coming back after a year to fight again in December of 2023. Before this, Paddy beat Jordan Leavitt and he finished the fight in the second round via submission rear naked choke. However, Leavitt was doing good in the first round, and before this, Paddy beat Kazula Vargas. He finished the fight in the very first round also via submission rear naked choke, and before this was his first fight where he beat Luigi Venturamini, and in this fight he finished it in the very first round via knockout. So pretty exciting fighter to watch. He has some Dana White privilege. All these guys that he has fought were smaller than him. This is the first time that he's facing a guy who is bigger in terms of height as well as reach. Now let's take a look at Tony Ferguson's previous few fights. So Tony is on a 6-fight losing streak right now. He has lost to Bobby Green via third round arm triangle. He's lost to Nate Diaz via fourth round guillotine choke. He's lost to Michael Chandler via second round knockout. He's lost to Benil Dariush via unanimous decision. Charles Oliveira also unanimous decision, and Justin Gaethje via fifth round TKO. However, in the fight against Bobby Green, Tony actually dropped him in the first round. He dropped Michael Chandler as well in the first round, and he also dropped Justin Gaethje with an uppercut. So first round Tony is still dangerous. His cardio really fades in the second and the third round. If this fight, I think in this fight, if Tony keeps up his cardio, he has been training with David Goggins. I think one thing which we can all say that in this training with David Goggins, his cardio will, I hope his cardio really improves, and if he keeps his cardio up in the second and the third round, keeps this fight on the feet, he can very well defeat Paddy Pimblett. Tony Ferguson is the better striker in this fight. He has good takedown defense. He can stuff the takedowns of Paddy Pimblett. I think I'm biased in this fight. My pick is Tony Ferguson. I think all that training with David Goggins will pay off. He will have the cardio that he didn't really have in the Nate Diaz fight or the Bobby Green fight, I think. David Goggins, training with David Goggins, all that high intensity, high reps will improve his cardio. And first round, Tony is still dangerous. If he improves his cardio, he'll become dangerous in the second round and the third round. This is a 3-round fight. Tony likely wins the first round if he can stuff the takedowns of Paddy Pimblett and keep this fight on the feet. Remember, Paddy is not a great wrestler. Jared Gordon is a better wrestler than Paddy Pimblett. If Tony can stuff the takedown of Paddy, which he very well can do, he has better takedown defense and Paddy's takedown average. His takedown accuracy is not that great. Tony really has a good chance of winning this fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. One more thing, if you look at the odds of this fight, I don't think Paddy should be a -298 favorite. He should be around -220 or -200 favorite. The people are really overhyping Paddy Pimblett. He is not that great of a fighter. I definitely see value in Tony Ferguson at these odds. For all these reasons and for the fact that I am a huge Tony fan, I'll pick him to win this fight. I hope Tony wins this fight and announces retirement. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.